Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another buddy fight video, continuing with the topic of what makes a good budget deck. I'm going to be using DragonBlood Sect as the example for today, and I previously highlighted that there are a couple things to look for when building a good budget deck, and that is, does it have a good resource engine? DragonBlood Sect does have a good resource engine. Does it have a good win con is another thing I highlighted previously, and it does have a good enough win condition. And then the last thing I highlighted was, does it have good enough support cards? And the answer to that is still yes. It does have enough good support cards that are all fitting on theme and having good synergy with the deck, and really making the deck function as a whole. But today I want to highlight options. So when building a deck, one thing I generally like to look at is all of the options available to me. And DragonBlood Sect definitely has a lot of different options in terms of what you could be running. So even though I like to be using for my budget deck Dancing Razor, because not only is he fitting on theme with DragonBlood Sect, which their whole core gimmick is controlling how the opponent's combat's going to be going, but I also like him because he also is controlling the opponent's resources, in which when an opponent's card is destroyed by your card effects, you get to drop one of your opponent's gauge, which that could be really huge depending on what the matchup is. But that's why I like using him, but there are a couple of different options because you do have Endless Leader, which is a little bit more of an aggressive replacement to Dancing Razor, because he has triple attack and he's going to gain you some life, so you could leave him a little bit more open than you would with Dancing Razor. And then you could run also Catastrophe Abyss, because he will help gain you more resources, so that way you could have some other play lines that you normally wouldn't have available to you. So there's definitely some good other options to run as far as a cheap and effective buddy. And then there are also some other good supporting cards that you also can run that all will change based on what you want your primary buddy or win con to be. Because let's say you're running Catastrophe Abyss, so you know your deck is going to have a little bit more extra gauge than it normally would because of his ability, so you might be wanting to put in Silent White over a couple of other different cards, because you could use his restand ability a little bit more effectively than you could before. So that's just like a quick example of just how changing a couple of cards around can really start changing the deck. And a good thing to know about deck building is it's all about what you want out of the deck. So you might not want this like slower, chippy resource game. You might want to go for a little more of a faster, aggressive push. So you'd obviously change your cards around to fit more of the playstyle you want, while sticking on theme with what the deck is still trying to do. So there's a whole bunch of different options for DragonBlood Sect to utilize and to swap out. And then there are a couple of slightly more expensive cards that you could go into. Like, all of these cards are $1 or less. So that makes the deck really, really cheap. So if you really want to feel like you could increase the power a little bit, you could spend just a tiny bit more on some of the more slightly expensive upgrades. So I think like Black Chain is currently like $2, so it's not like it's that big of a jump, but it will definitely help increase the overall power and consistency of the deck. And then another good cheap upgrade that you can make is going to be using the original buddy over the evolved buddy, because the evolved buddy has gone up in price and might not be as accessible. So as a result, that made the original buddy go down in price and more accessible to more budget-friendly decks. So you could use the original Bloody Eyes, which is also sitting around $2-3, depending on where you look. So you could use him over Dancing Razor, and then that might shift or change some of the support cards because now you want to focus more on Bloody Eyes rather than Dancing Razor. And the support might look a little bit different because now the cards are doing different things. So it's all about looking at your options and what's available to you, because at the end of the day, no deck is really perfect, and there's always room for improvement or customization based on what you want out of the deck. So while I think this deck is pretty solid as a whole, it does have room to grow and be expanded upon or just changed. So no list I make is ever going to be perfect, and I always like having a good foundation or base to start with before I really start like tweaking and customizing and iterating to make it more of what I want it to be, or in this case, what you would want it to be. So that's kind of all I have on this deck. I think last I priced it out, this whole deck costed about $15. So if you really want to splurge on some of the more expensive cards to up it to like around $20, that's fine. It'll definitely help out the deck a lot. And then you could just have some fun trying to customize it the way you really want it to be played. So, as always, I will have the deck list in the description below. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions or want to leave a comment in general. And then, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Buddy Fight content, and I will see you in the next video.